The Cincinnati Bengals are mathematically eliminated from playoff contention, and boy, was it a stinker for them to end the season on at home. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in the land. He's James Rapien, I'm Jake Liscow, and we've had you covered here on Locked On Bengals through the thick and thin, back through 2016 to present here, covering your Cincinnati Bengals. As for the first time, I believe, since 2020, the Bengals are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, James, before the final week of the season, I think, because they were in it late in the season anyway, the last 2 years, even when it was a long shot. And instead, you get Joe Burrow returning, and then a real stinker from this offense in a game that effectively ends their season. They still have 3 more games, but no longer competing for the playoffs. That is what we discussed today here on Locked On Bengals. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, you can visit FanDuel.com and get in on some NFL live bets for the rest of the season and into the playoffs. And as we welcome back the everydayers, shout out to all the everydayers out there. Shout out to all of you who make Locked On Bengals their first listen. Pretty pathetic game from this offense, James. It was 17-0 at the end of the third quarter. And honestly, if before the game you had told me that the Ravens only had 17 points at the end of the third quarter, I'd feel like you're at least in the ball game. If not, things going pretty well for you. And that was not the case.
I would have taken 17 points total given up by this defense all day long. And I would have thought we'd be talking about 5-9, and Monday night's going to be a huge matchup. You need the Dolphins to rise up and then go to Miami and all of those things. And the Bengals didn't show up. Joe Burrow, his worst game by far of the season, his worst game in a couple of years, to be quite honest with you. And when that happens, they are so Joe Burrow centric that there's just no way. And to Joe's point, he was like, no team would have won with me at quarterback today. I mean, he's as critical as anyone. Literally any player I've covered ever has been of themselves after the game. But it wasn't just like, I don't think it was just him. There were a bunch of drops. Jamar Chase had drops. This team just was really lifeless on offense in the first half. And then that obviously carried over into the second half and going for it on fourth down. Like, did you have any confidence? I wasn't knocking the decision to go for it on fourth down, but it didn't feel great. And a lot of that has to do with Joe Burrow and what he's seeing, but they were out of rhythm early. And then that just continued throughout. And this is the first, for those that don't know, the first time Joe Burrow has been shut out ever in the NFL. The last time was 2018 at LSU, his first year with the Tigers, just to give you an idea. And there's been 3 different occasions, Jake, where Joe Burrow scored 3 points. And one was against the Ravens, one was against the Titans, and then the other one was against the Cleveland Browns. And so to take it a step farther, all of those were on the road, by the way, to take it a step farther at home when it was frigid temperatures, -1 at kick with the wind chill, and got a snowstorm here last night, everything that went involved in that. So for them to come out and perform the way they did as a team, where they just had no chance, no shot, that's really disheartening. And it sent however many fans were actually in the stands home upset, bothered for a bunch of reasons, one of which you didn't have to clean off your car today, ladies and gentlemen. You could have stayed home and stayed warm. You came out to Paycor like me, and, you had to watch that debacle.
And there were issues with getting fans through the gates. I saw people posting lineups as kickoff was happening. People, I guess, all arriving at the same time.
I was told nearly 80 security members called off. And
I figured it was something like that. Like they probably had a
no-call, no-show. A bunch of stuff with the snow and all of that. We knew the snow was coming, right? And so clearing off the seats, by the way, is something I would say that the team should have had planned ahead of time. But the security people wanted no part of this. And you wish fans would have done the same thing, because they didn't want to witness anything fun. There was zero fun was had today, Jake, to use the Joe Burrow line from Wednesday.
Talking a lot about fun. Joe Burrow wasn't good in this game, and you talked about this as you made your opening remarks, James. When Joe isn't good, it's really hard for this team to win. When Joe is actively to your detriment, that's when you end up with these lopsided games like today, where you just there's no shot. And it's the first game I think is this the first game he's lost in December? Because I saw a graphic before the game about how Lamar's 15-0 in the NFL. Lamar's 15-0 in December.
Well, he lost last week.
That is true. Maybe it's after December 13th or some arbitrary cutoff date.
He's been really good in December, though, to your point. Like dialed in, locked in. And this was still a game that had meaning, to be clear. Even though you and I and everybody else were kind of like, they still had a chance at the playoffs if they win and the Steelers lose tomorrow night, especially.
They had a chance to take one off of a division rival. Mm-hmm. If nothing else, I mean, you're not mathematically eliminated, so you're still playing to win football games. It's very, very simple from the football team point of view. And Joe just made too many mistakes in this game early. It's frustrating because the defense, once again, while overall we're not going to sit here and say the defense was good in this game, they only gave up 17 points, and the game script went a certain way where the Ravens stopped throwing the ball at some point entirely, weren't really trying to push for more points at some point. But early in the game, when it was close, the Bengals did kind of what I hoped they would do again on defense, exceeded my expectations. They forced 3 punts in the first 3 quarters. They hold the Ravens to a field goal at one point in the red zone. They get that takeaway, the gift from Zay Flowers. They have another one, unfortunately, hit DJ Turner in the face mask. Apparently that ball was slightly deflected by Mark Andrews.
Still got to catch it.
I agree. I didn't see that when I first watched the play, but that does make it tougher. But the offense just unable to do anything with all those opportunities. They had 4 trips well inside scoring territory in this game, and they get shut out both because of turnovers and Joe Burrow taking that sack. And, people might be upset at the offensive line for the way they played today, but I honestly think a lot of the protection issues were actually at Joe Burrow's feet and getting them into the right protection. And Joe said on that 15-yard sack, he got them into the wrong protection call. And that is what it looks like. And you also can't take the sack afterward. But I don't want to sit here and just harp on Joe Burrow either, because generally Joe Burrow is still the reason that this team does anything. And that's what you were saying, right? Is like this team goes as Joe goes, and the quarterback is a highly influential position in the NFL. They just didn't have any answers for him today. There was no assistance coming. They could not get out of their own way. They couldn't find ways as a coaching staff to help Joe in this game, to get him into more advantageous looks. They couldn't figure out this Ravens defense that they seem to have had a pretty good feel for after Mike McDonald departed this Ravens team. And in this game, Joe Burrow couldn't get the protection set right. He was getting fooled by disguise throughout the game a number of times. Generally, the processing that we've grown accustomed to for him wasn't really there. And he was really hard on himself, I think, too hard on himself, but he wasn't wrong either when you take him like just literally straight up for the way that he played in this game.
Sure. Real quick on the blitz or the protection call on the sack, the 15-yard sack, where the Bengals should have at minimum been 3-0, first drive of the game, defense playing well, you get some momentum. Like that alone, we know how the Bengals are, man. Like that alone, maybe the whole outcome of the game changes. Like, or
if DJ Turner does catch that ball, that's 10-0 when you have an interception. Instead, it goes to 17-0 a couple plays later.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And
or if Jamar catches one of the couple of passes that he could have caught in the first quarter.
Well, on that same drive, 2 plays before, Jamar, if he catches that ball and cuts out, it might be a race to the pylon for a touchdown. And
which I assume is why Joe put the ball where he put it on that play.
I agree. There's just so many plays like that early on where Joe was a tick off or Jamar was a tick off, and then you look up and suddenly you're just completely out of rhythm. And I think that was part of it. It's just you miss a layup, you have a breakaway dunk, it goes off the rim, and then suddenly your offense is stalled out like Wes Miller and the Bearcats, right? Where you can't score points, and that's a deep cut. But this team just is not built to withstand that. And yet the defense did its part. And there will be some bright spots. Like when you do film with Mike Santagata this week, there are going to be some bright spots to hit on from a a defense standpoint, I think. And it's all for naught because you're right. Joe makes them go. And when he's playing like that, the way they're built, the way they're constructed, they have no chance at beating a division rival. We'll continue the conversation now. The Bengals 4-10, their worst record since 2020, the earliest, to your point, that they've been eliminated from playoff contention since 2020. And that playoff drought, it's almost reached high school length, 3 years in a row, Jake. We'll continue the conversation coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Aura. The holidays, well, they're officially here. And that means, well, gift hunting, it's on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way to share memories. And Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. And it's perfect. It's perfect for grandparents, parents, newlyweds, your significant other. It doesn't matter. You got that mantle right there. It's screaming at you. You have a bunch of pictures. Well, get an Aura frame right now. Get all of those pictures in one spot. And right now, for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off. Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter. All you have to do is use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code LOCKEDON. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So go to auraframes.com, use promo code LOCKEDON today. Support the show by mentioning Locked On Bengals at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
James, let's stay on the Joe Burrow topic for a little bit longer here. He was asked to follow up about Wednesday's remarks. Before we do that, I just want to thank everybody who's here with us, despite the way this season has gone. If you're making Locked On Bengals your first listen of the day, if you're part of the Everydayer Club, well, we appreciate you deeply. And you are already an everydayer, perhaps. If you want to take it up a level and go ad-free, you can join the Everydayer Club today. You can get Locked On Bengals with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for $5 a month or $50 a year. Check the link in the show notes to learn more about how you can join the Everydayer Club for an ad-free version of this podcast. And James, Joe was asked during his post-game presser about his Wednesday remarks, given an opportunity to revisit and clarify them. Obviously, he wasn't in a very good mood. He hates losing. That is very clear. But he did say that it had nothing to do with playing in Cincinnati, and it was all to do with his mindset in playing football. What were your thoughts as Joe Burrow was able to follow up on his Wednesday remarks?
Yeah, Joe isn't there yet. So twofold. Joe Burrow is not going to retire in the 2020s. If he does, I'll give Jake Liscow my patented Daewoo that everydayers that go way back know is alive and well and whoop the snows behind here in the Queen City. I'll gift it to you, man. I'll give you the title, just to be clear. And Daewoo, you can't find him everywhere. And so that's the first thing. He's not going to retire in the 2020s. And the reason I say 2020s is just because of age. Maybe he retires in 2038. I don't want to say 2030s. So 2020s. So that's the first thing. He's just dialed in. Two, like, could eventually he be unhappy in Cincinnati? Sure. But I don't think he's reached that point because of all of his actions. I mean, I think he was pretty excited with this team and about this team and the changes they made coming into the year. And I'm sure if you gave Joe Burrow truth serum, he'd still feel like they would be not just in playoff contention, probably winning the division, probably being considered right there with the Bills, who, by the way, beat the Patriots today in a crazy comeback. And so you think about it that way, like Joe thinks, oh, if I'm playing my best, we can beat anybody. And so he's just not there yet. That's not how he's wired. That's not how he's built. He's not thinking about Duke Tobin or Zach Taylor or Duke Taylor or Zach Tobin. He's not thinking about any of those guys after a loss. He's thinking about Joe Burrow and why the Bengals lost. So not shocked. I'm glad he was clear, though. And maybe these national shows will say, hey, if you want more insight on Joe Burrow, check out Locked On Bengals, where you get the real insight and not insert whatever show that they're talking on. I expect that to not happen, by the way, but they probably should. They probably should do that. Just send everyone our way.
They got to get those clicks, James. And Adam Schefter probably did hear from teams around the league that were like, hey,
well,
Adam,
sure. Everybody wants
to trade for Joe Burrow. Can we get one of those?
Ooh. Yeah. 1,000 first-round picks, and I'll consider it. 1,000. I already thought about this. 70 would be not enough. 70 draft picks, 7 years of picks, not enough. Just to be clear.
1,000 and also like your entire roster.
Yeah.
Deal?
Like, but in all seriousness, like 10 years of draft picks. Like, I've covered the team now for pretty much a decade regularly outside of a year and a half in Cleveland. Like, there's no way. Like, 10 years flies by and you're staring at, how do you find a Joe Burrow forever? You have him. Like, I don't know. It would take a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even a conversation topic. To wrap up on the offense here, James, I hope that Amarius Mims is okay and he can finish the season. Do you have something to say here?
Yeah,
looks like you have
I
information.
asked Amarius. I said, hey, man, you all right? He said, yeah.
Great.
So we'll see if he actually is. He was walking pretty much okay in the locker room. The point is, though, is I think that he avoided serious injury. Chris Jenkins Jr., I think he avoided serious injury as well. So I'll just point that out. It doesn't mean they won't miss a little time. That could happen. They're still coming off the adrenaline and everything like that. But I don't think either one is like super, super serious.
Yeah, you hope to avoid super serious injuries at this time of year, especially now that you're eliminated from the playoffs. But Amarius was good in this game. I think that he continued the steady progression that we've seen from him throughout this season and looks like he's going to be a good foundational piece for this offensive line going forward. So that's why I wanted to make sure we hit on Amarius here. Plus the injury, a lot of injuries in this game on both sides. DJ Turner also left the game. Amarius missing, I think, the offense's final 20 snaps of the game. Cody Ford came in, and I don't want to watch Cody Ford play tackle with Joe Burrow at quarterback, James. I don't want to see it. You can't make me watch it. If he's playing right tackle, I'm watching the other 4 offensive linemen. Yeah. It was not good for Cody Ford on his limited snaps in this game.
Yeah, I'm not shocked by that. I don't think anybody should be shocked by that, to be honest with you. It's scary. It's scary that that's the backup, and we certainly hope that Amarius is good to go for next week's game against Miami. But there's a conversation that we have to have as we wrap up the offense. Joe said he does want to play the final 3 games. Whether or not he should play is a whole nother topic that we should tackle at some point this week. Even if I do think he will, should he? Is it worth it? Should it impact? Should the last 3 games matter to Zach Taylor's future, the future of anybody we're going to discuss? I think there's a ton. There's a ton there, right? Because if you shut down Joe, then you have to make a decision on Zach now because you never know how it would look like with Joe Burrow. So just throwing that out there as well.
Yeah, I think that the first thing you have to figure out, like you said, is how much do these last 3 games matter in your evaluation? How much do 3 games against teams that will not make the playoffs? Probably. Miami, I guess, might sneak in technically. I don't know. Maybe they still have a chance. I haven't looked at
I think they have a chance, but it's a long one.
I haven't looked at their situation on a day that the Chiefs were knocked out of the playoffs, by the way, and Patrick Mahomes hyperextended his knee and is probably not going to finish the year for the Kansas City Chiefs unless he's Gumby and is just miraculously healthy again. Just leads you into that conversation about Joe and how much do games matter when you've been eliminated from playoff contention, when you're evaluating the future of your coaching staff. But we can't talk about the defense here, James. The defense had, I would say overall, game that we've come to expect from them is the way that it finished, but the way that it started gave this Bengals team plenty of chances to play complementary football, take a lead early in this game, and the offense was unable to capitalize on that, obviously, but there were some nice things on this defense before we got into the second half anyway, and so we can talk about the defensive side of the ball here. Some funny-looking stats. There's going to be some funny-looking stats in this game when you look at the team stats to finish up the show here coming up next.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, and it's going to keep NFL action fun all season long. Look, this NFL season has moved fast. It's been disappointing for the Bengals, but that doesn't mean that you can't live bet other games, including that Steelers game on Monday night. It's Steelers, it's Dolphins. Obviously, they have all the props, all the live spreads, all the odds. You can go with a live same-game parlay on different prop bets. Boom, FanDuel has all of that for you at your disposal. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And it's not just NFL. Of course, it's NBA. Of course, with the college football playoff coming around as well, you got to get to FanDuel, take advantage of all of the different bets that you can make. And if you want to wager on the Bengals, you could certainly do that as well with a matchup in Miami coming your way. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, Jake, let's dive into the defense here. And it's a defense that, you're right, I mean, early on, held it down, back-to-back stops and splash plays where Myles Murphy and then Demetrius Knight. And then who would have thought that Jordan Battle gets in after a really bad missed tackle in the open field where he has a gap. He's filling the gap, doesn't make the tackle in the gap, makes a great interception on Zay Flowers. And this Bengals defense got off to a good start where you had three young players that you hope are building blocks making big plays for you. And that's the best of both worlds, right? Where one, you're in the game. Two, the defense is making plays, and it's the young guys that are probably going to be on the roster that you're probably banking on moving forward. And I think all three probably will be on the roster next year, certainly banking on the first two. Those guys are making plays. Demetrius Knight and Myles Murphy specifically had awesome games. The rise of 99 continues. This was I'm pretty bullish on Myles Murphy right now. He's playing well.
The first three drives of the game for the Ravens went 6 plays, 13 yards, punt. They got a first down very quickly. Myles Murphy made back-to-back plays like you're talking about here, made a run stop and had a sack on the next play. The next drive, 3 plays, -4 yards, and a punt. Demetrius Knight with that second down sack for Lamar Jackson on the bootleg, unblocked, takes a great angle. And that's something that you like to see for Demetrius Knight, taking good angles. Both of his sacks of Lamar Jackson in this game involved good pursuit angles and not getting outrun or taking a bad angle to take himself out of the play. Demetrius Knight also makes a tackle on third down to help the Bengals get off the field on the second drive. And then I think I misspoke earlier. I said the Ravens had the first turnover of the game. Joe Burrow threw the interception first on the Bengals ensuing drive. They went 11 plays, 40 yards on their first drive before Joe Burrow took that 15-yard sack. So it was 55 yards on 10 plays and then a minus 15-yard play, right? To have to punt the ball takes them out of field goal range there. The next drive after the Ravens go 3 and out is where you get that deflected pass interception, which comes after the deep ball to Jamar Chase on the left sideline, where Joe Burrow said in his press conference he thought that Jamar Chase got tugged. He thought that there was a pass interference play there. So that is another big play that doesn't go the Bengals' way. The whistles in the first half really didn't go the Bengals' way. But then you get that interception, and then the Bengals answer with a 3 and out. And then the Ravens go explosive plays. 5 plays, 79 yards, touchdown. And at that point is where things start to look a little bit dire, because the Bengals are doing everything really incrementally. And the defense has made some plays and they have the takeaway. And now the Ravens have found their way to explosives. The Ravens' next drive, 5 plays, 80 yards, touchdowns. The Bengals unable to find explosives for the entire first half. One of those that go ball to Jamar Chase we talked about just now, but the inability for them to find answers in this game, whether it's Joe Burrow not seeing things right and not getting the ball to the right target on some of these plays, or Zach Taylor not giving them advantageous looks. The offense in the first half, man, like you can't get shut out in a half at home when you have 5 possessions. They had 5 possessions in the first half. Just can't end up like that. One of those, the end of half, where even then you have a Jamar Chase play that could have gotten them a long field goal try. And that ball ends up on the ground. So just too many opportunities.
Jamar's got to catch it. Yeah. Those are the type of plays. Like, that's why it's not just on Joe, right? When it comes to the offense and in this defense, they did enough, but even then Zay Flowers just gets open and he dropped another touchdown. Like Zach Taylor said after the game, like, oh, well, 3 points. And it's like, well, yeah, 3 points, but Zay Flowers was wide open in the end zone and dropped the ball. And so that's a touchdown that they left out there. It's there are encouraging signs with a few young players. Do I have any confidence in this defense, period? Like, let's say the Bengals had won today and they need to get a stop in Miami or get a stop against the Cardinals or get a stop against the Browns. Like, I'm not banking on this defense getting a stop yet. They're still not there for me at all against any of those offenses. And I know those are pretty crappy offenses. Still don't feel great about them. And so that's it. I think overall they played pretty darn well against Lamar Jackson. And they were able to get some pressure, and that's encouraging. I liked some of what they were able to do there. And so you can like that and overall think that the defense did enough and still not have a ton of confidence in them. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. I mean, they made plays. There were positive plays.
No
today.
doubt. No doubt.
Sprinkled in throughout with the plays they didn't make. And I think that's part of the difference. What do you think the Ravens' longest drive was by time in this game? Like, roughly. How long do you think it took?
Not long. They were lose. So they scored their first 2 touchdowns. Well, their only 2 touchdowns in the first half. And I'm just going off of memory here. They were losing the time of possession, like 18-12 roughly. And I'm a little off on that, but it's pretty close at halftime, I believe. So let's say 4 minutes. I don't know, 4 minutes.
4 minutes and 15 seconds was a 7-play, 41-yard drive at the end of the third quarter where they end up punting the ball. Their touchdown drives were 3 minutes and 42 seconds in the 2 different touchdown drives. 5 plays in 2 minutes and 59 seconds, and then 5 plays in 42 seconds using some timeouts to get a touchdown before the half. The Bengals possessed the ball for the first, let's see if I can do some quick math here, 13 minutes and some seconds, roughly 13 minutes of the fourth quarter. And then the Ravens got the ball back and kneeled it out to end the game. But with Joe throwing a pick 6 deep in Ravens territory, that was a 16-play, 80-yard drive that ended in a pick 6. And then they go 11 plays, 43 yards. So the final time of possession in this game is just kind of funny to me. It's 39 minutes and 19 seconds for the Bengals, 20 minutes, 41 seconds for the Ravens. The Bengals ran 31 more offensive plays than the Ravens in this game. The Ravens still gained more yards.
Lamar Jackson threw 12 passes. Lamar Jackson was 8 of 12 for $150. He only threw it 12 times. Derrick Henry had 11 runs.
And he was sacked 4 times. He was sacked on 25% of his dropbacks.
If you say, hey, the Bengals defense is going to hold them to 17, force a turnover, sack Lamar on a quarter of his dropbacks. Sign me up.
Yeah.
And it was 24-0. It was a beat down. And that's why Joe felt. And that's why Joe felt the way he felt after the game, right? And well, I will say this, it's too late. Fine. I wanted to give the defense some love before we get into like the mind of Joe Burrow. Whatever Joe meant on Wednesday, whatever his mindset was that set this storm off, that's how they played on offense. Like that mind, like even if he didn't mean it, it doesn't matter. That mood, that cloud was over the team, over the offense. And I'm not saying that it was intentional or anything like that. I don't know. I don't know why, but that stuff matters, man. And I don't think it's something we I don't think it was even a local thing, but I do know like on the TVs at Paycor State, like inside, like when you're walking out, those national shows play. I'm sure players walk by. They walk by where I walk by, like on the dock when you're walking in from the player parking lot. And so if those are playing, like you're going to see them. It's not like you can avoid it completely. And so just something worth noting, because that is certainly how they played.
They go as the quarterback goes. Was not a good game for Joe Burrow.
I have some thoughts about that, Jake.
We'll talk about the future of this coaching staff. We'll talk about the future of some of these players that I think if you're looking for anything, it's probably continued development from some of these guys. That the film will be interesting on the defensive side of the ball because the Bengals did have some success early in this game. They didn't have a ton of success stopping the Ravens in the middle of the game. They had issues in run defense again. I think some pretty significant issues in run defense again. But did the linebackers play a little bit better? That's possible. Demetrius Knight with those 2 sacks certainly a couple of really nice plays just on those two plays individually. Myles Murphy beating tight ends a couple of times. You can't block him at the tight end, drawing a lot of chip help. I thought was the better of the two starting defensive linemen for the Cincinnati Bengals between him and Joseph Osai in terms of rushing the passer in this game. So if Myles is improving, you got decisions to make with Myles, decisions to make with Osai this offseason. So a lot of things that are going to be impacted by the way that they finish this season, I think. Right or wrong, I think that these things will matter. And so I do think the film on defense is going to be interesting. Figuring out what was confusing Joe on the offensive side of the ball, that'll be interesting. And we'll have all of that in the next episode here on Locked On Bengals when we dive into the film. But until then, this is a tough game, real ugly loss. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Until next time, have a good one.